If you're interested in glowing up, then I'm Celeste Louw, and this is Brave Enough. If- Let's talk about stuck, because I think this is an important part of any survivor journey where we feel like we are trapped in a situation. So over the years, I've been trapped in many situations. I've found myself just surviving from day to day without really thinking about the consequences of that or how to get out until the day that you wake up and you think, what am I doing here? I've wasted a lot of my life being stuck. And I think that it's a survival strategy. You know, if I just get through today, if I just get through today, everything will fall into place. But unfortunately, it's not a successful survival strategy, because the problem with it is that the more you sit in it, the harder it is to get out. It's like being at the bottom of a pit where there's nowhere to climb out. And even when people are putting ladders down for you, you just don't know how to climb. So it's not a dramatic thing, though. It doesn't start off like that. It's not always about falling apart, because most of the time it comes on you quietly. And eventually you're looking everywhere for people to save you, and you don't realize that the saving is going to come from inside of you. It's a quiet kind of thing that grows, because actually you're functioning. You getting up every day. You doing what you need to do. You look okay from the outside, and everyone thinks you're fine. But on the inside, you know you're not okay. It's not like a big, loud sound. You just know that you're moving from one crisis to another all the time. And you maybe even be reaching out for help. You might be saying to people, help me. I don't know what to do next. And you're expecting them to come up with something that is better than what you can come up with yourself. Because here's the thing, the answer's inside of you. And so when you pause and things go quiet and you're honest with yourself for a second, you know that you're stuck. And you know that you've got to do something, but you're stuck in the not knowing what is the next step. No, you're stuck in not knowing what's going to be a successful next step. And so you keep waiting and you keep going over the same things over and over again, thinking that something's going to change magically. I've been there. But sitting in something and thinking this isn't right, and then just carrying on anyway, is not a good strategy for success. And you sit there, not because you don't know. You know, it's not like you don't know what the next step is, or you don't know what you need to do, because deep inside you, you do know what you need to do. You're just afraid to do it. And you're afraid of failing. But the thing about making your own choices is that failing becomes your failure to learn from, and succeeding becomes your victory to own. And so the fear of what's going to happen if I stop and actually face this is keeping you trapped. And this is the reason why a lot of survivors, we get a lot of advice. People tell us what to do. They go, why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? Why don't you go get a protection order? Why don't you go to a counselor? But you just can't get yourself to do it. And the reason I think maybe is because once you admit to yourself that things aren't working, you don't get to pretend that everything's okay anymore. And then you have to do something with it. You have to move. And that's the part people don't want to talk about, because it's a difficult thing. How do you even do that? When you've lived through abuse and you don't take a second to think about what's next, then you get stuck on, why don't I just move on? But the thing is, you've been taught to adjust. You've been conditioned to survive. So you learn how to cope and how to manage, how to keep things steady. Maybe you learn how to read people, how to keep the peace at all costs, how not to make things worse. And now maybe you're out of that situation and you're still living that life. You're still living the peacemaker and the trouble avoidance person because you've got so good at it. You've got so good at it because that's how you live now. And maybe you can't even see another way of living anymore. And you just want to get back to who you were before everything broke. But that person is gone. So you just keep doing whatever you've been doing and hoping for the best. And that's not the answer either, because you're not questioning why are you making the decisions that you're making? And is there somewhere to go from here? So until something in you just starts pushing back, you're going to stay exactly where you are. And that pushback might not be a loud thing. It might just be a small thing. A small thing that says, I'm going to tell someone today that this isn't okay. Something small that just makes you know that you have to do something now. And that's uncomfortable. That sense of, this isn't it. This can't be what life is all about. And it's easy to ignore because you've ignored bigger things. And avoiding things has become your go-to. But it's not going to go away. And you're not going to heal trying to make it go away. And you're not going to heal pretending that it didn't happen and just repeating the same patterns over and over again, because that's what's happening. You repeat patterns because your brain loves patterns. You just keep doing the same thing going, well, something's got to give here. At the same time, you have another part of you that learns how to survive. And that part of you is saying, just stay where you are. Because this comfortable is better than not knowing what's coming next. And this I know how to deal with. But the other stuff I don't know how to deal with. So we'd carry on. And it's a funny thing, because when you're stuck like that, you perpetuate what someone else started. You finish the job with that your abuser started. Because you've lost your identity, you've handed over all your power, and there's nothing very much left of you. So staying where you are isn't safe, because at the end of the day, just getting through every day is not what you were designed for. And you sit between these two things, the sense of, I really need to do something about this, and no, I'm going to make it worse. So the part of you that's trying to protect you is actually now hurting you. And in that space, that's where you feel like you're stuck. But if you're honest with yourself, as I've had to be honest with myself too many times, you're not really stuck. It's more like you're in this little in-between space, this place where there's a continuity of safety, in the sense of knowing how to deal with things in a way that is going to keep you physically safe. But it's not going to keep you mentally, emotionally, or spiritually safe, because you're stuck in the in-between. You're stuck between what you've always done and what you're starting to realize you don't want anymore. And it's uncomfortable. It's more uncomfortable than the comfort of knowing, well, this is what I need to do to survive. Because your body is still going to react to the danger of your abuse, trauma, fallout, even though it's not there anymore. So anything could trigger you back into that. And if you're not working on undoing that feeling when your chest tightens up and your thoughts start running and you go straight back to what you know, because that's safe, right? Or is it? Because what is the point of healing? The point of healing is to become the best version of yourself that you can be. That is the point of healing. And if you're sitting in a no man's land, doing the same thing over and over again, because that's more comfortable than taking a risk, then you are avoiding your own healing. You have shut down. and you're overthinking and you're trying to control everything in the future. And let me tell you, if there's one thing that we do to people, is to try to make them think that they can control life. If you think that you've got control over your life, then you need to stop and think about things that have happened in the not too distant past. Things like a COVID epidemic that kept you locked in your house, that nobody thought was possible before it actually happened. You have no control. You could walk out your door and a tree could fall on you. You have no control. We tell ourselves that we've got control because that makes it easier for us to bear. It makes it easier for us to sit in the place that we're at and pretend that everything's okay. But sooner or later, it's going to come and it's going to bite you on the bum. The more you avoid it, the more you shut down, the more you overthink it without making decisions and taking actions, the more you try to control it, the worse it's going to get. Because all of those things only help for a short period of time. They're unsustainable. So now you feel settled because you've done all these things that have helped you survive in a place where you don't need to just survive anymore. And it feels comfortable because it keeps everything exactly the same. And it creates in you an understanding of, this is what I deserve. So I want to tell you today, you don't deserve to be stuck ever. What you deserve is real growth, real healing, and the joy of being autonomous and not having masks on, and understanding that you have a great purpose to fulfill in the world, because every human being has a purpose to fulfill. So after a while, sitting in that same spot, in that same safety net that isn't actually safe, whether you're still in your abusive relationship or you've left and you're still following the same paths over and over again, that's going to catch up with you. And you're going to start getting tired. And I mean really tired, bone tired, emotionally tired, spiritually tired from carrying all of this stuff. We tell it in the small moments, when you start noticing yourself, when you start looking inward, when you start practicing mindfulness, when you understand how your body is reacting, what your emotion is, and what your thought pattern is, what you spiritually believe, and you bring it all together and you get a step in the right direction. And even if all you're noticing is that there is another direction, you already are starting to be victorious, because that's a step. Before that, you're just running on automatic. You're not finding truth in anything. You're not analyzing anything, because you just have to survive every day. So when you create a space where you can sit with yourself and understand what's going on with you and make a decision to take action, that's where you're going to fix things. But not everything needs to be fixed all in one go. Rome wasn't built in a day. So just do something differently. Just do one thing differently every day. Maybe take a pause. Maybe say something small. Maybe you don't go straight into the same reaction, because it's not that big, but it matters because it's different. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Change is always uncomfortable. You cannot run away from growth and change, because all it will do is suffocate you. Because the world that you're in now, it doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't fit who you were yesterday. And there's going to be a part of you that wants to go straight back to what feels familiar, because it's easier. And that's normal. You have to force yourself. And when I say force yourself, I mean really, you have to force yourself to take action. Because if you don't take action, everything will stay the same. And this is where you need to have connection. Isolation is not your friend. being able to sit with someone and say things out loud. Choose someone you can trust. And not keeping it locked in your head will be incredibly freeing. Because something inside of you changes. And your system starts to learn that things that were once dangerous are not dangerous anymore. You'll remind yourself, I'm not alone. I don't have to do this the same way. And that's new for you. And that's how things get started. It comes from inside of you. Have you got the ability to face what has happened to you and square it away? And when these shifts start, they'll be slow, not perfect, but properly done. No one's perfect. So maybe you aren't stuck after all. Maybe you're just at that point where something inside of you is saying, hey, this can't be all what life is about. And still you haven't moved yet. And that's okay. But it doesn't stay okay forever. At some point, you have to make decisions and you have to move. Avoiding them is just postponing the inevitable. So at some point, you need to decide. You need to decide that not everything has to be perfect, that you don't have to have a complete plan. You just need the next step. Maybe the question is not, why am I stuck? Maybe it's, what am I avoiding? What do I already know? What would it look like to do this differently? Even just a little. Because that's where it hurts. And the real question is, do you want to stay in that pain forever? Or are you going to get up and be brave enough to move? If this meant anything to you, if it touched you or made you learn and grow, then maybe you want to like, follow, or share it with someone who might need it. I'll see you next week. Be brave enough.